Welcome back, Fantasy Endgame community. I'm Pierre. It's time for some more fantasy baseball draft prep. The season is almost here, so let me give you some last minute advice on how to wrap up your weekend or maybe even opening day eve drafts. I know a lot of you like to draft right before the season starts. That's a smart idea because injuries do happen. So let me give you my round by round favorite targets for the beginning of your draft. The type of player I want in the first round of my fantasy baseball draft is Jose Ramirez, because guess what? He gives you everything that you want. He's got that power speed combo. You really do need to chase steals early if you're in a rotisserie league, one where you absolutely need steals as part of 5 categories. Even if it goes beyond, maybe some leagues have 6, 7, 8 categories, you still need steals because they are so rare these days. So Ramirez is a guy who can give you 30 steals and 30 home runs. There's not too many players who can do that. Oh, and by the way, he hits for average. Will drive in a ton of runs, score. You get the idea. And you don't have to spend the first overall pick or even the second overall pick on him. He's going usually around pick 4 or 5. I've seen him fall as late as pick 7 or 8 even for some reason. So you know what? Don't worry about the Guardians lineup. It really doesn't matter. He was still a stud without Lindor last year. He's going to be a fantasy stud no matter what. So Jose Ramirez is the player that I really want in round 1. All right, what about the second round? Guess what? I still want another 5 category player, someone who can do it all and give me power and speed. And this time we're going for Ozzie Albies, not just because he does exactly what I explained with Jose Ramirez, but second base is a notoriously thin position. It's a little deeper this year. You got more options, but still, once you get past the first few guys, you're not getting that speed really. So Albies is a guy. I know Freddie Freeman is gone. It doesn't matter. They actually replaced him with a better, younger version. That's Matt Olson. I talked about him in a different video. So Albies really is a guy. I've seen him get closer and closer to first round territory, but still his ADP right now is around 19, ADP consensus from all the major platforms. So if you're lucky enough to get him towards the middle or even end of the second round, you should be thankful. Albies is a guy I really want to get in as many drafts as possible. All right, now you see a common theme developing here. In round 3, my target right now is Starling Marte. Yes, it's about the speed here. He's not going to give you as much power. Might get you double-digit home runs, but not a lot else. It's okay that you're loading up on speed because after this, you won't need any more, and you'll find there's plenty of power still available. Okay, but Marte is a guy who, again, can fill up the stat sheet. The Mets is going to be a great place for him, honestly, because I know the Mets were disappointing last year, but they still have Lindor. Adding Marte, adding guys underrated signings like Eduardo Escobar, Mark Canha. This team should be legit on offense, so no worries there with Marte. He's a guy who you don't really have to worry about park factors for because his game is speed, and he's going to hit you over 300 probably, high average, and that's actually more rare to find than speed, guys who consistently hit for a high average. So I've seen his ADP fall a little bit. Some people got scared off by that early injury in spring training, that oblique injury. I actually grabbed him in round 4 of one of my leagues. So I don't think he'll be available that late in most places, but if you can grab him middle of end or round 3, you'll be just fine. My next target now in round 4, that's another Met, believe it or not, and that is Pete Alonso. So we are totally done with steals. Maybe not totally, but we're good there. We're set. And now it's time to load up on power. So you can accumulate home runs throughout your draft, and you can get guys, because there are a lot more players nowadays who will get you double digits, even 20 plus home runs. There are a lot more of those players. But how many players can actually get you 50 plus home runs and carry you in that category? Now, I don't think he's going to get there. Obviously, he didn't last year. I don't know if we'll ever see another 50 home run season like he had. I don't know if he's going to necessarily even lead the league in home runs, but he's going to be up there. It's probably a good chance that you're not going to see any player reach those heights. We know that the ball has changed a little bit. It sounds like the ball, talking about the Major League Baseball that's actually used in games, is going to be similar to last year. We saw power go down, and now there's a humidor being used in every stadium. It's not just a Coors thing anymore or an Arizona thing. So we're going to see a lot more even playing field. The sticky stuff ban also comes into effect. There's a lot of factors Major League Baseball keeps throwing at us. Bottom line is, you may not see the same heights from Alonso, but he is going to be one of those leaders, and with less players hitting home runs to that extreme like we saw a couple of years ago, that power production becomes even more valuable. So again, I like this Mets offense. I'm putting my trust in it, and I'm getting Alonso in round 4. All right, we're on to round 5. You may notice we have no pitchers yet, and we're about to change that. We know there's so much risk taking a starting pitcher early. I'm not taking any in the first round. I'm just not. Again, there's not a guy who just stands out and says, you have to take me first. Corbin Burnes is kind of the consensus, but I don't feel like I have to take him, especially using that first round pick. So I'm going to wait and get a guy who still, I think, qualifies as an ace. Talked about him in my must-have pitchers, more must-have pitchers. That is Freddie Peralta. Okay, go and watch that video and I explain exactly why I love him so much. I think he is an ace. You can get him in, the 50s based on his current ADP. He's got that strikeout rate. He plays for a team that I think is going to win a lot of games again this year. So Peralta, for me, I'm fine taking him as my first starting pitcher in round 5. We got our first starting pitcher. Why not take a second one? We've already kind of loaded up our infield. At least we got the bases covered, literally. So let's go with Logan Webb, another guy I really like this year. I kind of came around on him, was skeptical, thought, well, I don't want to read too much into his late season performance, but he is dominating again this spring. He is somebody who we know has taken a major step forward. I think getting him as your second starting pitcher is a really solid pick here. His ADP is about 61. You should be able to get him in most drafts. There might be a guy who really falls in love with him and takes him earlier. But again, there's a couple other pitchers in this range. I mean, we've seen Jose Berrios go around this range. You'll be totally fine with him. But Logan Webb is the guy I'm targeting more often than not around the 6th round. Okay, on to round 7. Now, here's the tricky thing is you either go one or two directions. You're either going to grab one of those stud closers early, or you're just going to wait and try to play the streaming game, waiver wire, and hope to get saves later. Well, you know what? At this point, I kind of treat it like steals, not to the same degree. I'm not taking multiple closers early, and I'm not going to be the guy to take a Josh Hader or Hendricks or a guy in round 3 or 4. But I like to get one of those top few options. There's so few closers who are just set in the role and dominant. So at this range, I think I feel good taking Emmanuel Clase of the Cleveland Guardians. All right, so Clase was an absolute stud last year, 24 saves, but 1.24 ERA. And the thing is, he's going to pile up those strikeouts similar to Hader. It's amazing if you look at it. He had a 16.8 swinging strike rate. Okay, so I mentioned Corbin Burnes, who's probably the top starting pitcher in fantasy baseball these days. Okay, Corbin Burnes led all qualified pitchers qualifying for the ERA title last year with a 16.6% swinging strikeout rate. Clase was better than that. Now, obviously a little easier to come in, throw one inning at a time as opposed to multiple innings as a starter, but still, you get the idea. He can make batters swing and miss. That's what you want to see. He'll pile up the case, pile up the saves, and it's just really important to have a set it and forget it closer at least somewhere in this draft, and you won't find many more left after you get to pick about 90 or so. You can get it like your Edwin Diaz or somebody like that. Even then, I don't feel as good about him, so I like taking Clase in round 7. So while all these other shortstops go off the board early, I can wait on the position because we know it's a deep position, and I'm going to take a guy who just signed a mega deal to go to Minnesota, and that's Carlos Correa. Now, Carlos Correa, not one of the first shortstops drafted because he doesn't offer speed, but we've already established that we've taken care of that early in the draft with our other players. So if you don't get a guy like a Trevor Story early, you can take a guy like Correa or a Corey Seager around this point. I really like Correa because, well, we've seen him do it year after year. He's in his prime, and he is motivated. He looks very motivated already from the day after he joined the Twins. I mean, he's diving for grounders in spring training. He's hitting it hard. I think this Twins lineup is going to be a lot better than people think, too. So I like Correa as my shortstop here, and the fact that you can get him this late is actually kind of surprising, just because he's not on that vaunted Astros lineup anymore. Still, taking him in round 8, I think I'm good with that. He's hitting 3rd in the lineup too. Going to be plenty of RBI opportunities for him. I like that. So my round 8 target is Carlos Correa. Round 9, taking another starting pitcher. You can go one of two ways. One of my personal favorite targets is the youngster in Toronto, Alek Manoah, and he's a guy we've already seen a velocity uptick, not a huge one, but still, it's not like he needed it this year in the spring. So Manoah, I think, will just keep getting better. Or if you prefer the veteran, you can go with a guy like Carlos Rodon, who is really being discounted. I mean, he had a great season last year for the White Sox, and now with the Giants, talk about a favorable park factor there. You know San Francisco is where pitchers go to rejuvenate their careers and to thrive. If you take what Rodon did last year, put him in that park, in that situation, I mean, it's hard to believe he's not getting drafted earlier, but of course there's a reason. It's because of his health. Always been injured his entire career, and then even missed a little bit of time last year. But I think he's fine right now. There's nothing lingering. It wasn't a major injury. So people are kind of scared away by that history. You know what? There's going to be plenty of other pitchers you weren't scared about that do get injured. So I really like Rodon here. But if Manoah is available to me in round 9, I'm actually going to take him first. We're in the 10th round now, and you know what? I'm going to take a catcher finally. I really do like Will Smith, and I'm not talking about the one who slapped Chris Rock. I'm talking about Will Smith with the Dodgers. I like him, but you're going to have to pay up to get him about round 4 or 5. You know what? I'm comfortable taking him there if the opportunity presents itself, but it's not a must. If you can wait and get Varsho, well, you know what? You get even more speed. That's right, speed from a catcher, because he's not really a catcher. He's playing center field. He's going to be hitting leadoff, and that is super valuable because he's going to get a lot more plate appearances, a chance to pile up those counting stats, and that includes speed, a catcher who can steal you between 10 to 15 bases. That is super valuable, especially if you do go with a different direction early on and you don't get a Starling Marte, for example. So Dalton Varsho, I'm more than happy to have him as a starting catcher. You don't want to be the last guy to draft a catcher in any league these days, so take him if he's available. Once you get past the 10th round, you really don't have many needs because again, we filled up every position in the infield, got a couple starting pitchers, got a closer, and we only have, I think, one outfielder. You can go in that direction, but you really don't need to pigeonhole yourself to a position. I'm going to take the best player, in this case, position, as a starting pitcher available. There's several pitchers in this range that I kind of like, but I'm going to go with my Marlin. That's Pablo Lopez, a guy who's really being discounted even more so than Rodon because of injury, and that's really because of when it happened. It was after July 11th, his last start, and he missed basically the rest of the season after that before reappearing for the final game, and he is fine right now heading into this season. No concern really, except that he did miss some time last year. But this is a guy who has been improving. He's rock solid. Again, Marlins Park is a great place for pitchers because it does stifle power. He's a guy who's been improving his strikeout rate every year that he's been in the majors, up to 27.5% last year. I mean, this is somebody who it's hard to believe he's getting discounted this much. So he's a starting pitcher I want in round 11. And then in round 12, let's go with a budding superstar. You might have to reach a little bit here because his ADP is actually much lower. It's around 150 overall. But I really like Jarred Kelenic of the Seattle Mariners. Look, this team is going for it. They're trying to win. They just boosted their lineup by getting Jesse Winker, Eugenio Suarez from the Reds in that trade. This is a team that has a lot of talent. Julio Rodriguez, his minor league fellow prospect, might be coming up too. We'll see when, Mariners in service time. But at some point, this lineup is going to get pretty scary. So Kelenic, we've already heard he's got a different mindset heading into this spring. He's got that rookie experience under his belt now. He's not going to have as much pressure to be the guy. I think we're going to see him, dare I say, break out this season. But you know what? He's absolutely worth the risk here, even if you have to reach a little bit, because he could be a potential 5 category contributor. So go ahead and grab Jarred Kelenic wherever you can. Those are my favorite round by round targets in 2022 fantasy baseball drafts. Let me know who are your targets that you like. Who do you agree with here on this list, or who do you think are your absolute must-haves for each step of the draft? Leave us a comment here. And of course, if you hadn't hit subscribe already, go ahead and do that. We're going to be here all season long to help you win in fantasy baseball. All right, guys, thanks for watching.